Good morning, afternoon, and good night. It is your boy Roddy back again for another episode of the Players Ball Podcast where we cover all sports far and wide. I am your host, like I said, Roddy. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is Roddy Remastered. IG is Roddy404. And you can more importantly follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram, just search up the Players Ball Podcast. And then on Twitter, it's at the Players Ball 1. And right now, you're either listening to us on YouTube or SoundCloud. Please follow us, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find both of those pages by searching the Players Ball on each respective website. Now, it's a good Thursday. The weekend is coming up. I love that. Nothing better than that, honestly. And I really feel like while it hasn't been the quickest and most fast-paced week in sports, I think that we can see that promised land over the mountaintop because, you know, this week is kind of setting everything up in terms of the NBA season. As the weeks go on, we're going to get a little bit more of, trophies and soccer as well. And then we got an NFL schedule release. So, we can, of course, prolong that and string that out longer and longer. So we'll definitely get into that. But first and foremost, I want to say I hope everybody's good going through this crazy little gas situation. I don't know why people are going bananas over this because even though I know people got to drive and get to work and go different places and pick people up and like the gas isn't like running out. Like we just can't access it. Like it's one thing to not really have it. And then it's one thing to be like, oh, it's just like delayed. So people took that as, it was running out and you see these long lines. So hopefully y'all got some gas in y'all car so y'all can get to work, at bare minimum. But please, if you're good, don't fill up bags of gas, please. Don't fill up trash bags. You're going to look crazy, and you're going to look crazy and inconsiderate more than anything. So just chill out, y'all. Please, for real. Crazy, man. Anyway, we can start with the NFL schedule release, though. I think that was probably one of the most anticipated, events of the week. Gave us a lot of interesting matchups. I didn't go through every single team's schedule, right? I went through my team's schedule, which is the Saints, who that, by the way. We have It can be challenging in some areas, but I feel like we got a way easier schedule than what we had last year, with playing so many good teams, having to play Mahomes as well. Anytime you got him on your schedule, it's going to be a little, challenging and rough in some areas. But all in all, I think this is going to be a great season. Hopefully we can get some more fans back in the stadium safely. And what I'm saying, make sure that the experience of this year's league is a little bit more different than the experience of last year's, because even though we're thankful that we got football at all last year, right? Like we're not gonna necessarily want to be putting up with this, for much longer. But me personally, I want it to be safe first. So if it can happen, then great. If it won't, then it won't. But I still want it. I want to still feel that atmosphere, but that's neither here nor there right now. So to start it off with the first game of the year, I mean, you can already assume that Tampa is going to be in it. They're going to play the Cowboys at home on Thursday night, and really a good opponent for them to start off with. Somebody that can kind of make their offense look good. Tampa Bay, that being, their defense has gotten better. The Cowboys made some adjustments on defense, but I don't know if it wasn't a large enough investment in the draft. And, it's still a lot of time before the season starts, so they can make additional additions and stuff like that. But, to be honest with you, man, it's like it's probably going to be a Bucs win if I had to guess. Not going to put any picks out until, we way closer. But I would guess that's a Bucs win. Dak coming off an injury is still going to be a good game. He may be a little rusty along with, some of the other guys that were banged up last year for the Cowboys. But honestly, I think it's a good first game to start with. Something with a lot of, anticipation and, it's really about Brady getting that eighth possibly, which is so crazy to say. Even though I don't think they're going to win another ring, honestly, I really feel like, this is a game where, and don't get me wrong, the Bucks are going to be good again. Like, they're going to be one of the top 2 teams in the division, right? But honestly, I just feel like we're going to see the cracks and holes in the system this year. Maybe I'm hating because they in my division, but I just feel that's what's going to happen. So, I mean, we'll have to see. Brady's going back to New England. I think that's week 3 or 4, which is going to be another. I mean, it's going to be chaos on the media side. We're just going to be talking about it all day, like we don't already talk about Tom Brady enough. But yeah, that's just what's going to happen. So good game on Thursday. Looking forward to it. But to keep it pushing, I think the most interesting game of the entire weekend is going to be on Sunday, should I say, 4:25. It's going to be the Chiefs and the Browns. Now, Chiefs-Browns in the playoffs last year obviously was tainted because the biggest stars weren't there. I mean, Mahomes wasn't there, towards the end of the game because he got absolutely slaughtered on that hit. So Chad Henne, the Henne God, had to, work it out, come in and make sure the ship was righted. But and also, not to mention Odell was not there for the Browns. I really feel like this was a matchup that the Browns, honestly, if they were as strong as they are now on defense, I thought they could have won the game. And you saw that even with, them having Mahomes get hurt, yes, but they stayed in the game, the Browns. They didn't play a Browns game, quote unquote, a game that we're used to seeing the Browns, choke up and see that, they're just not ready for that occasion. And it was actually a good game. So, with them playing in week 1, being at full strength, man, it couldn't be better. So I honestly think that the Chiefs still edge out a win in this week, but I think the Browns are going to give them hell. And what the most important storyline for the Browns is this year is Odell. Like, depending on how they feel about him and depending on what they feel like they can utilize him for, I feel like it'll depend on if they're trading him or not. And if I'm a smart man, I'm not trading Odell. I'm working it out whichever way I can before I even think about trading him. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then you move on. I feel like even though I love Odell, I understand the move to say, well, I mean, finding a good quarterback is going to be way harder than finding a receiver that can be at least, at minimum productive, So I understand if the Browns come from that aspect and trade them, but it's got to be the right deal, man. It can't be a fleecing or anything like that because I personally felt like the Giants got a little fleeced. They didn't move on and go up and above and beyond once they traded them. So, I mean, it's just gonna be is what it is, So that's gonna be an interesting matchup for sure. That's the one I'm definitely gonna be watching. Now to get into Sunday Night Football, we got Bears and Rams. The biggest storyline there is probably gonna be like who starts for the Bears. Because I'm gonna be real with y'all, like we can sit here and play like, that if Andy Dalton plays for like 3 weeks or so, then, Justin Fields is going to learn from him and he's going to get all this knowledge and, da-da-da-da. But it's like, bro, to be 100 with you, like, I personally feel like, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, I personally feel like if it's for a whole season, like making the guy set out a whole season, that's fine. If you don't think he's ready, I'm totally cool with that. But if you see a guy who I feel like is ready or is as ready compared to the other guys other than Trevor Lawrence as he could be, I think you start him. I don't think you sit here and be like, well, what if he comes in and his confidence takes a hit? Man, it's going to happen that way regardless. Like, if he don't play well, it's going to happen that way regardless. Like, if Andy Dalton comes in there for 3 or 4 weeks and stinks it up, and then Fields comes in there and stinks it up, like, the feeling is going to be the same, if not worse. So my philosophy is go ahead and start the kid, man. Don't even play. Like, don't even play with it. Just start the man. Like, and then you'll see, hey, even though he's not the most polished sucker in a drawer, I mean, like, he's still going to be able to get us to higher highs than these other options. And that's all that matters, like, period. So I totally get that, you're wanting to say, well, I mean, it's a big first game, going on the road, going to LA, who is also stacked, and we're, excited to see Matt Stafford. Man, you got to get this dude ready eventually. Like, you can't just keep, hiding him. And I know they're not, they're just trying to make sure that he's ready, but still, like, come on, bro. You gotta let the bird fly eventually. So that's what I feel, man. And I feel like Justin Fields deserves to get that start, but hey, maybe I'm crazy. Now with the Rams. The Rams thing is, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a contender in the NFC just based off talent alone, right? But if they get injuries, because their defense isn't as deep as they were last year, they may be, taking a little step back, not a major one, but their defense is going to be heavily affected, by what's going on if they get injured, because, Aaron Donald is great last year, but he got injured too. And I don't think he can keep putting the whole defense on his back, and being the major disruptor of the defense. And I just don't think it can carry on that long for, somebody in his position. So they're really going to need the offense and Matt Stafford, with their guy Sean McVay being a offensive guru. They need to figure out, okay, how do we maintain this level of offensive excellence, to make sure that we're not putting too much pressure on our defense, because with teams like Washington, with a younger defense, maybe you can put a little bit more pressure on them because they're younger guys, and you don't have more of a solid option at quarterback, having Ryan Fitzpatrick. But with the Rams, with you having Stafford, you got a guy who's a veteran. He can throw the ball around the field. He can maintain possession, which I think is going to be the biggest thing, because if the Rams can get that run game kind of going again, man, they're going to be hard to beat. And that's why they were so hard to beat when they went to the Super Bowl as well, because they ran the ball so well. It's like, man, once we get into our passing threats, we're almost, virtually unbeatable. So, hey, man, I'm excited for it. I think this will be a good game too, but ultimately I think the Rams will edge the Bears because they won't be exactly ready yet. And the quarterback situation isn't as definite as the Rams will be. So that's just how I feel. But to end it real quick, we got the Ravens and the Raiders for the Monday night game. I love seeing Lamar in Vegas, so that's going to be dope. The Raiders going to get like one of them dubstep DJs to like DJ the whole situation. I don't know how many fans they're going to let back in there, but it should be a party type atmosphere. And, with me going to Vegas pretty soon, I'm going to stay pretty close to the football stadium, so I'm going to have to check that thing out, because I ain't going to lie. And if y'all haven't seen it, go on YouTube or Google or wherever and look it up. But the Raiders Stadium is pretty hard, man. I ain't going to lie. It's really a great stadium, aesthetically, should I say. But in terms of the game, man, I really feel like the Raiders are going to lose, even though I feel like they're a great team. I just don't believe in them for real. And I think Lamar has vengeance on his mind. And I think that now that he has, more of an adjusted roster to be a little bit more friendly to him, I really think that this is going to be another fantastic year for Lamar. And his team. So I got the Ravens in that matchup if I had to choose right now. But, we'll definitely have your picks when the season comes closer, and we'll also bring back our $5 play, $100 parlay, or $100 play, $5 parlay, whichever one you want to do. Just some picks that we love, that we feel like are locks and stuff like that. So we'll get into that a little bit more once the season starts. But hey, man, football isn't kind of around the corner, but we're getting excited for it. And, we can finally have those imaginative storylines now that, we have the draft over, free agency is approaching soon, OTAs and mini camps as well. So it's a regular, normal NFL offseason, and I know for some that feels great. All right. Let's get into our news for the end of this week. And we're going to start with the Warriors, man. Like, Steph is a wild boy. But, I didn't have to tell you that because you probably already knew that just the takeover nature that he plays with is it's unbelievable, man. And it gives the team so much life. And not enough is being made how he is literally, and I'm not even being in any sense figurative, he is literally putting that entire squad on his back right now. And it's hard to really be impressed, even though that sounds kind of harsh, because he does it all the time. So it's like, man, like, how are we supposed to react to this? Like, you do this all the time, bro. And man, it just doesn't get old, though. That's the thing. So, man, the Warriors and the Lakers, if they meet for this playing game, that is going to be one hellified playing game, man. It's going to be, it's going to be ridiculous. Like, it's going to be one of those things where I'm like, I might have to, if it's, I don't know what day it is, but I might have to call off of work just to get prepared. Like, and we'll have analysis for y'all next week, as the play-in tournament starts. But man, like, I just can't wait. I can't wait. Honestly, it's going to be fun. And again, I'm a fan of the play-in tournament. I thought it was stupid until, we saw how the season worked out, and, that, hey, we might actually have some teams we're interested in down at the bottom there that may give, some of these teams that we expect to make the playoffs, at least in the top 8 in a regular year, they might give them hell. So I'd love to see that. And it's going to be great. So shout out to Steph. They beat the Suns and the Jazz, the 2 top seeds, on a back-to-back at home. Like, that's the most confidence you can ask for as a group. So, hey, shout out to him, man. That's beautiful. But to keep it pushing, the Lakers, they edged the Knicks in OT. Now, that was back on Monday, and they also just beat last night the Rockets barely, with no AD and the LeBron, obviously sitting out. AD played on Monday, but he's resting too, in solidarity with his brother LeBron. So I feel like personally that the Lakers are going to need, I don't know, because the Lakers only have, I think, only 2 games left. And do they have to play LeBron and AD? Probably not. Like, it's not really going to be meaningful in any way. It doesn't look like the Blazers are going to drop any games, with them winning last night against the Jazz as well. So I would say that, if I was on the Lakers, I would just sit them down, man. Just sit them down and let them chill. But, there's a very important game coming up with a very dangerous star. So I would just have LeBron and AD be getting ready and studying up for that. That's really all you can ask for, and hope for the best, because that one game is going to be a toss-up. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it, but the Lakers, they still going through it a little bit, so they got to make some decisions. But to keep it pushing again, the Hawks and the Knicks, they have clinched playoff berths. The Knicks for the first time since 2013, and the Hawks the first time since 2017. And with Atlanta and New York being such big basketball markets, here in Atlanta, we get excited for our Hawks. Maybe not as much as the Falcons or the Braves, but we get excited for our Hawks, especially when they're good. Trae Young has been great. And my thing with, talking to people about the Hawks all year has been, if the team wasn't, a good 6 to 7 players weren't hurt for 60% of the season, like, we would be probably in a better standing, maybe. I don't think that the Hawks honestly can beat the Bucks in a 4-game series, just because I don't know if Giannis is going to be able to be held captive in order to accomplish that. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, it's like it's a great thing to see the Hawks back in the playoffs. That's what I'll say. It's a great thing to see them back, and as well as the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks, with New York being a top 2 market in the entire country, and the Knicks fans being so rabid, and everything that's going on with the Nets' rise to success, it's really interesting to see how that's going to work out, and if the Knicks and the Nets are even going to play each other, man. That'll be one hell of a series. So I am enjoying all of this, man. I'm glad that there are some new teams in the playoffs, even though it's been more obvious, should I say, in the past years of who is going to win and get to the championship. I think that this year it's been a total toss-up, which most of us, who are the old men yelling at the moon, and sun, that this is what we want. This is what we request. And hey, man, I'm excited for the playoffs. Like, I can't state that enough. I'm just excited for them. So shout out to both Atlanta and New York. Y'all finally getting it out the mud, and y'all deserve it, man. Y'all really do. But to go over across the pond, Oster Gunnar Solskjaer, I don't know how to say the man's name, so I'll say Ole, okay? He was petty, like we talked about earlier in the week, by, not starting his usual 11 and, playing the Utes. And that was to save up, the regular senior players, his regular 11 not to potentially or basically, he literally just wants to make sure Liverpool is not playing Champions League football next year. Like, that is the sole thing he wants. And I love that. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, why I love it. But yeah, they're going to get their, this is their 3rd game in 5 days, which is brutal for United. Liverpool been resting pretty much all throughout the week. They had a game at the weekend, but they've been pretty rested. So are United starters. They only played a little bit of time. So this should be a great game. Definitely stay tuned to our Twitter. We're gonna have a pick for it for sure after we do our little research. But man, it's gonna be Petty LaBelle time. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Moving on to Arsenal beating Chelsea off of the stupidest Jorginho mistake. We're a Chelsea friendly podcast over here, and if you hating, then again, you better be in Manchester, because if you're below us, quit talking to us. Anyway, we just dropped the ball. I mean, there's nothing really to say in that moment. Jorginho made that mistake, and that's really it's not the only chance that Arsenal got, but it's the best, clearest, most gifted chance that they had, like, of the entire match. If it was, deleted from the entire game, maybe Chelsea at least draws. I feel like they would have won, but they at least draw, if that mistake wasn't made, because of all the chances and the aggressiveness that they were putting forth towards the game. So, hey, man, I understand that, things happen. It's a long season. It's the league, especially with it being condensed. They got a final on Saturday, so I'm not really worried about it too much. They're playing the team on Saturday that they will also play next week to ensure that, they're in the top 4 and, not kicked out. So honestly, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Like, I feel like, honestly, that Chelsea are right where they need to be, even though they're not, having the greatest outing in the past, 3 days. I really feel like Chelsea is still one of the best teams in England. I think they're the second best, but I'll say one of the best. And I think they'll be fine. So I don't think there's no worry. And, with that win, Arsenal stayed in contention for the top 4. But come on, bro. Like, it's Arsenal. They're going to drop points. So we don't even got to worry about that. They got to win out in order just to get there and have all this other stuff happen. And, bro, it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, Arsenal, shout to y'all for winning, but, purposeless victory. And, yes, I'm hating. Anyway, to bring it back over here, actually, let's finish with this. The UCL final was moved to Porto, in Portugal, obviously. And honestly, I don't know the specifics as to why they moved it from Turkey. I know that Turkey, just with everything that our guy Enes Kanter over on the Blazers is going through, Turkey ain't necessarily the most friendliest and easy, going country in the world. Not saying it's a monster or anything, because I don't know enough about it, but they move in the Champions League final out of Turkey. So that, what else do you need, right? But I don't think this changes anything. Chelsea are really familiar with Portugal. They've been there, I think it was like at this point a couple months ago to play Porto. So nothing unfamiliar for them. I feel like it's going to be, not a comfortable setting, but somewhere where they're like, man, okay, we know this environment, we know this area, not too far from home. It's amazing. So I like it. Now, to end our news segment, we are going to come back to the gridiron really quickly and let you know that the Packers signed Blake Bortles because, first of all, the Packers don't have a quarterback other than Aaron Rodgers on the roster. And the Packers don't have a backup quarterback on the roster that dressed out last year. They don't. And it's so wild to me. And, it just was brought up recently because of all the drama with Jordan Love and stuff, that Jordan Love didn't even dress last year, dog. He did not even dress last year. So they're bringing in Bortles, which, that's going to make everything better. But it's just wild to me, this whole saga in Green Bay. Green Bay look like they playing games. I know Aaron Rodgers ain't the most, straight up, straightforward, most work-wittable, for lack of a better word, person in the world. But, hey, y'all going to have to figure this out, because if this man really wants to leave and he's willing to sit out and just sit on his money, like, y'all gonna be SOL in a different way. So Green Bay, get it the hell together, please. But with that being said, that is our news for today. Now you know what time it is. Let's get into that big three. All right, it's time for the big three. I want to start with number one, LeBron and James Harden. Now, while I'll say that Jokic is probably, in terms of, a full season's performance, the best player going into this playoffs. But if we're talking about the most important players, the players that are extremely vital to what their team's chances are, literally, it is LeBron and James Harden. It's just no in between of that. We've seen James Harden and KD. We've seen KD and Kyrie. We've seen James and Kyrie. We've seen, did I miss a matchup? We've seen everybody together except for all three of them. And it's really difficult to, it's difficult to gauge how much chemistry you guys have, as a unit, if you're literally never playing together. Like, if you can't play together, there's nothing to be built other than going off of, your knowledge for the game of basketball, which is high level, as anyone in the NBA is. You have to be a high level IQ person to be in the NBA. It might not be as high as everybody else, right? But you got to know how to play the game. So you can win off of talent. I've seen championships win straight off of talent, like one straight off of talent. It's possible, right? But there has to be that sense of chemistry as well. And that's the only thing I'm worried about for the Nets. I'm worried about, what is the chemistry going to look like? What are the others going to contribute? And then, when it comes to a matchup like Giannis, like who is going to guard him? Because I still think that it is a great matchup for the Bucks having the Nets, whether it's in the conference finals or wherever they meet. Like, I think that'll be a favorable matchup for the Bucks because you can get your guy Giannis going. And if you take too much of a village to try to, stop that, then the other guys can eat and the other guys can, just make sure they're showing up. I don't think they have to be world beaters. They just have to make sure they're showing up. And that's, all they can request anyway, make sure you show up. So the Nets, they're going to have some struggles, because the season ends this week. So I don't even know if they're going to have the opportunity to even be like, well, we're going to, play these games. We're going to take some extra time to make sure these guys got some chemistry. Like, no, it can't happen. And even with James Harden joining, coming back last night, it's like, dog, still, it's just no chemistry there, And Kyrie wasn't there to boot, so there's just never been that time where these three guys can be healthy at the same time. And if this persists in the playoffs, man, it's gonna be even worse. Like it's gonna be bad, to be honest. And the same thing for the Lakers. It's the same concept. If LeBron isn't there, then AD he can carry the team, right? But I don't think that AD, even though I love him as a player, I just don't think he is the player that you have to sit there and say, okay, he's going to put the team on his back every single night. We have to make sure we get double and triple teams. And yeah, he'll score 40 and have a great game, but we saw him have great games earlier this week. And granted, there are some key pieces out still, so the whole story wasn't told. But, you still saw a struggle against teams that I feel like they're better than. So, ultimately, LeBron, if he is healthy, he is going to be key in a Western Conference that is literally open season. Like, there's no one who I feel like I go into that Western Conference playoffs and say, yeah, they are the team to beat. We don't really have a team to beat. Like, we have a bunch of teams who are either really good but experiencing injuries or, just good overall, well-constructed teams. So that makes for the potential of a lot of upsets and the potential for a lot of things going the ways that we didn't or wouldn't expect them to go. So that's honestly something dope. And I really, like I said, am excited for the playoffs, but I want to see these guys healthy so we can, have their legacies uninterrupted, for lack of a better term. So shout out to both of those guys and their teams. I hope they're good, and I hope that they get back so we can see them because, that's what the league is all about, and especially the playoffs. Now, I think this is the most important story, and, we labeled the big three as the three most important stories in sports, not in any particular order. I just think that they need to be brought to at least you guys' attention, the listener. There is a situation at Manchester United across the pond where their women's coach, who actually their women's team has been really good, since their inception. And I'm really proud of, the way the women's game is growing, not only here, but all over the world. I think, Team USA and the beautiful women that are working hard to make sure that every woman around the globe is getting fair treatment. They set a great example by being, back-to-back World Cup champions. I mean, if you're not familiar with the World Cup, like, even for the men's side, that's unheard of, so they have serious consideration of being one of the greatest women's soccer teams of all time. But that's not the purpose we're here today. Man, Casey Stoney, who is the coach of Manchester United's women's team, she resigned, and people are largely thinking that it's over her consistent asking for decent conditions. And this is what we keep running into when we talk about women's sports. And the way they're treated. Everyone says, and I was watching the I Am Athlete podcast, and Channing Crowder, his favorite line is, "You eat what you kill," right? His favorite line is, "You eat what you kill." But the rebuttal of the ladies that were on the show, who were female athletes, was, well, if we're in a ravenous, jungle with depleted resources and things that aren't good enough, then how are we supposed to eat what we kill? Like, how are we supposed to kill anything worth anything? To be honest, and I get that, and I agree with that. Like, if you're in the jungle, the men, and we're in a desert, we're obviously going to have a harder time. We're just asking to be positioned the right way. And that's what I think everyone misses. They're like, oh, well, y'all don't make enough money. Y'all don't make enough money. So fine, we don't make enough money, but position us. It doesn't cost y'all that much of a, bank breaking amount of money to put one of these female athletes in an advertisement. It won't hurt. You see already that there are companies attached to the WNBA. And while they might fluctuate and, some might be there for a couple seasons and then leave, and then others are there for long term. Just put the investment into these women. And over at Man U, they weren't, So actually, let me read you some of these conditions that some of these ladies are going through, just so y'all can understand what's really going on, because I don't think people really get it. And you tell me if this is ridiculous and unacceptable. So, reportedly, the Manchester United women players were unable to shower in between training and meals before makeshift porta cabins were installed, while the nearest toilets were a 10-minute walk from their training pitch. You heard me right. Their cabins and the toilets were 10 minutes from the nearest training pitch. And the upgrades that were promised by the club obviously did not happen. And not only is this insulting, to people like me who want the women's game to grow and want these women to just get respected, bro. You should not have to walk 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. If anyone at Manchester United's men's senior team had to walk 10 minutes to go to the bathroom, there would be outrage. The fans would storm the stadium again. But we don't have that same type of energy for the women, because guess what? They don't make no money, so they should be treated like shit. That's not how it should be, man. Human decency, literally human decency, is all they are asking for. And just to spend a little bit of money on them. They're not asking for $1 million contracts, man. Everybody is sitting here saying, well, y'all can't make as much as us, because it's not about making the money, man. It's not about making the money. It's about having the opportunities to grow the game, and it's about the positioning, and it's about the treatment. That's literally all it is. And, with the Glazers having so much, just straight up BS on their, on their resume of what they've done since they've bought the club in 2005, this is, to me, at the top of the list. I could, even though I understand the fans, being mad about the Super League and the potential, ruining of the game, I feel like this is way important, man. Way more important. Because while the game itself needs to be upheld and maintained, like, treating people with human decency will always be more important to me. That's just how it is. So I hope that I'm not even a Manchester United supporter, and I want the Glazers gone off of this, because it's just unacceptable that women have to be treated this way when they're simply just trying to do their jobs, man. They're literally just trying to do their jobs. And I feel like we should hold the people who are holding them back accountable. And we haven't been. And it's frustrating. So, Casey Stoney, shout out to you for standing up for what you believe in. I'm sorry that it had to end this way with you, leaving the team. But do better, man, United. Just do better. Do better, man, because it shouldn't be like this. And it's ridiculous that it even has to be. But to stay with Man United and to stay, on a more positive note to end this off, Ulster Gunner, I'm not even going to try the last name, like I said. Like we said earlier in the broadcast, he played his backups, his youths, and let the senior players, just get a little bit of rest. 3 games in 5 days is obviously wild. Having 2 games, in 1 week is just unheard of. And I don't think it should happen, but, the fans spoke, which they should do with the women's team. But that's I guess, another topic. Anyway, I want petty coaches back, man. I want petty coaches back. And I really want petty coaches to come back not only in the Premier League, because, with the rise in, players who played for the club being hired as managers, of course, they're still going to have that energy and passion, for the club, seeing as that's all they've known, and with Ole, with him being a part of the club since the 90s, like, he's hated Liverpool for a while. So to him, we might think this is, him being petty, him not starting, his regular 11. But man, this is like, this is just another, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's another regular day in the office for him. And it's hilarious because I know Klopp is salty. Klopp loves to make excuses when he doesn't, have the greatest showing. So I get it. It's just so hilarious like that. They are really going to say, you know what, we don't really have much to play for. Like, City's already out of reach pretty much, unless they drop, a ridiculous amount of points. We're just going to make our opponents and one of our biggest rivals, at least, life a living hell. And that's all we care about. And I like it, man. I encourage the petty. So shout out to Man U, bro. I am going to be excited for this match today. And again, make sure y'all are staying tuned to our Twitter, because we are going to have some picks for y'all. So with that being said, that's the big 3. And let's ride out. All right, y'all. It's been a blessing. Thank you again for tuning in to the Players Ball Podcast, where we cover all sports far and wide. Again, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at the Players Ball 1. We will be having some gambling picks for y'all today, so please stay tuned to that. You can also follow us on Instagram, where we'll post our picks from Twitter on there as well. But to get them as soon as they drop, please follow us on Twitter. But our IG is going to be at the Players Ball Podcast. And then as well as SoundCloud and YouTube. Find us there, subscribe, like, tell your friends, everybody. You can search both of those websites for the Players Ball. Now, it's going to be a good weekend. I hope you have a good one. I hope you got gas in your car. And I hope everybody's safe. No COVID, nothing dangerous. Everybody comes back on Tuesday so we can talk about the weekend in sports, all right? So with that being said, again, I am your boy, Roddy. This is the Players Ball Podcast, and we will see y'all later. Deuces.